As I have sort of edited this down and realized that there are probably some points that I could have been more clear. Well, there's always places where I could be more clear. I did want to take a moment to talk about the Nazirite vow that these gentlemen were participating in. Um, and I didn't see any point in really recording some video for it. I'm just going to put some clips up here to uh, to go along with the text that I'm going to read from. In Numbers chapter 6, it talks about the Nazirite vow. I'm not going to go to the beginning of that section dealing with the vow, just merely the middle portion starting at verse 13 to give you some indication of what offerings are being offered here in Acts chapter 21, that they're talking about the period of time that they would have to take and make these offerings. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant whether Paul actually got to perform these vows. It's irrelevant whether we actually read that these four gentlemen that he was with actually got to fulfill those vows, because what we do know is that Paul went and did as he was asked by James and the elders, and he did so because it was consistent with what he himself believed. And so we need to now just take a look at the Nazirite vows so that we get a clear picture of what offerings are being offered here at the temple. Verse 13 of Numbers 6. Now this is the law for the Nazirite when the period of his separation is over. He is to be brought to the entrance to the tent of meeting. There he is to present his offerings to the Lord, a year-old male lamb without defect for a burnt offering, a year-old ewe lamb without defect for a sin offering, a ram without defect for a fellowship offering, together with their grain offerings and drink offerings, and a basket of bread made without yeast, cakes made of fine flour mixed with oil, and wafers spread with oil. All right, so do you get the picture here that the offerings that Paul was being asked to pay for were these offerings here? Certainly no small request for four individuals. Each of them would require a year-old male lamb, a year-old ewe lamb, a ram. So the expenses here were considerable, given that Paul also had to provide his own. So this is important, I think. But of greater importance is the offerings themselves. We are led to believe by Christianity that these sacrifices have all been done away with. Yet here, we're talking about burnt offerings, sin offerings, fellowship offerings, grain and drink offerings. And I think that sin offering should stick out like a sore thumb. The priest is to present them before the Lord and make the sin offering and the burnt offering. He is to present the basket of unleavened bread and is to sacrifice the ram as a fellowship offering to the Lord, together with its grain offering and drink offering. Then at the entrance of the tent of meeting, the Nazirite must shave off the hair that he dedicated. He is to take the hair and put it in the fire that is under the sacrifice of the fellowship offering. After the Nazirite has shaved off the hair of his dedication, the priest is to place in his hands a boiled shoulder of the ram and a cake and a wafer from the basket, both made without yeast. The priest shall then wave them before the Lord as a wave offering. They are holy and belong to the priest, together with the breast that was waved and the thigh that was presented. After that, the Nazirite may drink wine. And that's because the Nazirite is not permitted to drink wine during the period of his vow. Whether you want to acknowledge this or not is really up to you. The fact that these Jews who had heard the message from the Jewish apostles taking the message to Jews, that they did not believe the law had ended. They did not believe that sacrifices had ended. And consequently, we have a clear, distinct difference between the faith and practice of these Jews, who were in fact taught by Jews who actually walked and talked with JC, compared to Paul, who himself makes clear that although he never talked to JC, about the best he has to offer us is that he had a direct revelation. And up till Acts chapter 21, that direct revelation seemed to go consistent with what the Jews were doing. And then we read in his letters an apparent contradiction to that. This is something that you need to seriously consider, in my opinion.